What is up with it? We're back for another pair stream here. We're working on building a waitlist, an SMS-based waitlist for our buddy's barbershop. And this is what stream number. This is like the fourth session. Okay, cool.
I think so.
Right on. So once we get Ken in this live share, this is above me is Ken Taylor, by the way. And yeah, so we've been working on this for the past little while. Once I get Ken in this live share, we'll demo what we've got going so far.
It worked this time, so we'll see.
Okay, cool.
We'll see.
We will. Yo, what's up, Scott? Welcome.
No, it didn't actually bring up the project, so I'm trying it again.
Maybe I should try restarting my shit too. You think that?
Wait.
We'll let you try one more time, and then if not, I assume it's on me. How's your weekend been, Scott?
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be doing like. Oh, wait. Oh, here we go.
Good. Are you telling me that you're watching Twitch at work, dude? That's fucking illegal. Suspect. I won't tell anybody, don't worry. Oh, I see it. Ken Taylor just went online in VS Code.
Yeah, it's making me kind of go through it like we did the first time.
Okay, why don't I'm just going to send a new link.
It's not saying like, what does it normally say? Like initializing file tree or something?
Yeah.
Let
me just try this again, because I remember, I think at least one of the times we tried, I had to like redo it. It's so nice when it works, but sometimes doesn't like to work right away. Okay, signing in. Let's see how this works. Okay, starting collaboration session. And then link copied to my clipboard, so visit this second link. Let's try that.
These work.
We got this.
This one seems more promising.
Good. We got a bite.
Hey, we're good.
Nice. You win this?
Am
Yeah.
I? It's still loading the file
Okay.
tree.
Okay. I wonder what's going on. I wonder if it's my internet. No.
It usually takes a minute.
Okay.
It's probably just my computer.
All right. Well, we've got
But
time. Plenty of time. Hopefully not too much though. Oh, nice. Ken Taylor 92 has joined the collaboration session. I'm going to start sharing some terminals.
cool.
So we got terminal 1. Can you write in that?
Not yet. It might still be loading,
Okay.
but it is just doing that white block.
Can you see me writing it?
No.
Dang.
For some reason, the first one never
Yeah, I
works.
know.
It's always
So true.
our computers hate each other.
I think my computer is just not enjoying itself right now.
So now we have a new one, and yes.
Great. Hello. All right, I'm going to create some more. 2, 3, and I think we just need 4 for today. So 1 for the front end, 1 for the API, 1 for the like Twilio tunneling thing, and then the fourth one we can use to write our commits and stuff like that.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna try to get this Twilio. I'm gonna do the API in the second one and the Twilio tunneling in the third one. If you want to start the client development environment in the first. So
Sure.
just we'll cd into client and then npm start, and that should do it.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm doing the API, and then in the third one we'll just say Twilio phone numbers list, I think is the command. I want to get the phone number, and then say Twilio phone numbers update this phone number and set the SMS URL to http localhost 4000/SMS. I think that'll do it. Awesome. And we're not going to make the same mistake we did last time, and we're actually going to share port 4000 from the start.
Hell yeah. We're making progress.
This
We're
little
learning.
this little setup side of things is interesting. Did you get the client? Okay, got you. Okay, cool. So that's so we're gonna use terminal 1 for committing and stuff.
Perfect.
Great. So yeah, welcome again, everybody. Today we're gonna be working on a few different features for our SMS waitlist app. But first, let's take a look at what we've got currently and discuss where we go from there. So I'm going to open up localhost 8000 in our browser, and here we have our beautiful looking Sorrento waitlist. What we can do currently is subscribe to the or add ourselves to the waitlist by texting a number. I'll demonstrate that right now. So I'll add myself to the waitlist, and yeah, as soon as that happens, as soon as we receive the text, we send a text back to the person, the customer, and then add that customer to the bottom of the waitlist, and then we can hit this next customer button to pop the person first in line off the top of the waitlist and add them to the served list, like that. And then all of this also works across multiple instances of this thing, so across multiple devices, and the data is persisted over time. So as you can see, we're using this we've picked up where we left off last time. All of this data just got loaded from our our database. And yeah, I just got and then the part that we did last time was set it up so that when a customer transitions from waiting to served, as I'll demonstrate right now, um, yeah, I just got a text back from the service saying that we're ready to be served. Please head back to the barbershop. So that's the idea. Today, what we're going to work on is adding some more controls to the people in line. So I'm just going to add myself to the waitlist again. And Ken, why don't you add yourself as well, if you don't mind. I'm going to add a few people actually. Cool. So yeah, now we've got four people in the waitlist, and what we want to do. By the way, what are the names of your dogs?
They have basically the same name. They were not named by us, but it's Shallow and Shiloh. You want me to throw them in there?
Yeah. Why don't you add them to the waitlist as well? They could probably they're very very similar. All right.
I don't think they know their names, but they got posted for adoption today, so they'll be on their way soon.
Oh wow. So you, like, what's the terms of your foster agreement or whatever? Like, how long did you know that you were gonna have them for a specific time?
No, we just have them until they're adopted.
Okay.
So we take care of them between the rescue and the. We basically take care of them on behalf of the rescue service
Gotcha.
until they find a suitable um, adoption family.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
So it could be quick, could be a little while. We'll see.
Hmm.
But they don't know their names.
Okay.
You can just call them either or.
Right on. What? How do you how do you address them in the house?
I just say, "Come here, girls."
Cool. That seems to work, huh?
Yeah, that does the trick.
Scott posted in chat, dog one, dog two. How
Yeah,
old are they?
they're 8.5.
Oh
So
wow. What's their
they should.
story, if you don't mind getting into it?
Yeah, this Twitch just changed from a code along to
It's a dog stream.
a dog backstory. I think their family had a child and was having trouble, or I guess they were just getting a lot busier, and then they just had their second child, and I think there's a lot more to it than that, but they were struggling to take care of them. When we got them, they were like really unkept and neglected,
Hmm.
but we got them all cleaned up, gave them some haircuts,
Awesome.
got them some shots. Now they're good to go. Dog one and dog two,
Love it.
ready to start a new life.
That's cool, man. All right, so yeah, why don't we get started by adding those adding those controls to customers in line. So namely, those two controls that we're gonna want is like an option for the barber to remove somebody from the queue, and then an option to let one person skip the line and say like, I want to serve Shallow right now.
Mhm.
So that's what we'll do. So I guess the first thing we can do is, well, if we look at the API actually, first of all, we have last time we set up this serve event handler, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so previously we had this set up as, I think we called it next, or something along those lines, like the thing that's tied to this next button. But we changed the functionality of it a little bit and changed the name to serve. And if you remember, like one of the main things that we did was that we make it take some data, and specifically, like, we're expecting the client to send in the serve event to send the ID of the customer that they want to serve. Oh snap! Thank you for the follow, Kessler6. Appreciate it. Um, but yeah, we want to send the ID of the customer who we want to serve. So we can probably make use of this um, in the for the case of like serve this specific person because the event handler on the API is already kind of set up to do that. So back in
Hmm.
our React app, let's see. We're here in this block. Do you see my cursor?
I
Okay.
do.
But yeah, like here where we're looping through our waiting customers and rendering a list item for each one. Currently, we're just rendering the name, but we can probably like just get this thing working by adding a couple buttons. Like we'll want one button to remove them, one button to like skip the line. Maybe we'll
Hmm.
call them just like remove and serve. That seems like a good enough idea. Um,
Hmm.
and then wire those up. Well, yeah. Do you want to drive, Ken, and you can like write the code.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I think what we'll want to do. Oh shoot! Look at that auto complete madness. What we'll probably want to do is just render the button within the list item because we'll still want like one list item per customer. But yeah, you can just throw it in like at the end of the list item closing tag, and Prettier will like auto format it all.
Like within
Yeah,
here
exactly.
in JSX, can a button be?
Yeah, that's
Whoa,
madness.
what are you doing?
I don't know. I wonder if it's like the combination of both of our editors trying to do extra shit.
It's possible. Um, does it need the closing tag, or can it have the slash in
Um,
JSX?
yeah, you're gonna want to have the closing tag just because like the button text
Oh,
is
yeah, I can
is
have. Okay,
uh,
I get.
is the children of the button, but other form elements like inputs and things like that, they don't need closing tags. They can be self-closing.
Cool. Oops. So do we want to give it like an
Yeah,
on
let's give it
click?
an we can give it like a empty function, like a what's called like a void function or a noop function for now, or we can just omit on click. Let's just like get a couple buttons there, like one remove button and one serve button.
Cool. Wow.
That's a problem.
There's a problem. Um, serve and the other one was
Yeah,
remove. Cool.
cool. Let's see how that looks. Cool, good enough for us. It's a bit of like a brick wall effect going on, but that this will work. So now, yeah, we have these serve and remove buttons that we can use. Let's hook up the serve one because I think we can do that right away without modifying our API. And then for the remove one, we're gonna actually have to add like a new event to respond to. So yeah, for
Hmm.
serve, if we look at the the way that handle next click works, you can probably get an idea of like how we can define this serve function.
Hmm.
So yeah, why don't we just create an onClick, and this onClick can just be like an inline function, just like an arrow function where
Cool.
we're gonna want to emit a new serve event.
Cool. Oh, just like literally write out
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Cool.
And yeah, cool. And you just need a comma between the serve string and the object. So yeah, in this case, every time the button gets clicked, We'll emit a new serve event and pass the ID of. Right now, we're still passing the same ID that the next click one does, but
Hmm.
in this case, like since like every iteration of this loop, we get like an instance of the customer that we're currently like that corresponds to this row. So like we could just pass this customer's ID as the ID value that we're sending to the serve event.
True. So just get rid of all this.
Yeah, you could just replace like instead of waiting customers 0 ID, we just want to send like customer ID.
Customer.id.
Yeah, tight. And I think you need one more curly brace after ID
You're correct.
on the inside of the parentheses. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. All right, let's check this out. Do you have it working locally on your end? Do you wanna
Yep.
have first serve
I would love to.
tennis style?
What do you want me to serve?
Dude, that's up to you. You can anybody but Trevor. Okay, nice. So you serve shallow, and there's shallow at the front of the served list. And if we refresh the page, that looks cool. Now, what happens if now you serve like Ken? All right, true. Now, let's see. I want to try something else. Like I'm going to serve Miguel and then Henry, and I want to see if they appear in the served list at the same, like in the order I expect. Like Miguel first, and then Henry, and they do seem to.
Hmm.
Damn. I'm just going to pull up our database again and remind myself if we're storing the time at which we serve these folks. Let's see. Interesting. We actually um, this is crazy because I was expecting like I don't know what the how these things are sorted. They're just like there's no timestamp or anything. It's talking about when um, when a person got served. So I'm amazed that the order is still intact.
Hmm.
Hmm. Let's see. What about serve Shiloh and then next customer Trevor? That's very spooky. All right. Well, cool. Um, it's nice that it works. It would be cool to actually have some kind of um, like timestamp associated with these users, so that yeah, like we can like very explicitly order them by the time at which they've been added to the served side of the list. So what I'm going to do is make a new column in the database. I
Okay.
guess you can watch the stream video if you want to see that, but like we'll just call it like served at, and this is going to be a timestamp. I'm going to go into my playback table just to see an example of what that looks like. So this type name is timestamp with time zone, um, and it'll be null by default because they haven't been served yet at that point. So served at will be a timestamp with time zone, and no default. We'll save that change. So now in the app, let's see. In the serve event handler here, what we'll do is we first get the customer from the database, send them a text, and then update that customer with by setting their waiting status to false and setting their receipt column to the message ID that we just sent, just as a bit of like accountability, I guess, or something like that. But we'll also do. Oh shoot! This is weird. My keystrokes are like this. It seems like this thing is like auto saving or something. Is that weird or what?
Yeah, that's what I was noticing before as well. You don't have any new extensions, do
No, I
you?
don't. That's so spooky.
Make sure.
Whoa. That's kind of well, not even kind of. That's super annoying. Spaghetti. All right. Well, I'm just gonna try to type fast. I'll say served at is equal to new date, and that'll just be that'll refer to like this moment in time right now, and it auto saves. What the heck is going on here? All right. Maybe I turned on autosave somehow. Would that be in the extension settings? What's up, Kurt? By the way, autosave off. Controls autosave of dirty editors. Yeah, it's off for me. Ken, maybe is your autosave on by any chance?
I don't believe so. Where was that an extension or is that
If you
just in
go
the settings?
command comma, you can get to your VS Code settings, and then just search for in the search box. There's like auto. There's a search box, and you can type in there auto space save, and you can see like it'll say files colon autosave.
Yeah, mine was on after
Oh,
delay.
okay. Set that to off then.
Yeah, I just
Nice,
did.
dude. Look at that, Kurt coming through the stream with the fix. My man.
Love it. I've never noticed that before
Yeah,
though.
I don't know. It might be like the kind of thing where like it was accidentally turned on or something like that. I don't know.
Could be.
Anyway, what I'll do right now is I'm actually gonna just remove all of the rows with where served at is null, and we're just gonna start fresh. So if you refresh the app, you'll see a waitlist with just Cameron on it. I'm gonna add myself a couple more times.
Cool.
Add Kurt as well.
Get
Add
him in there.
Scott. Everybody's getting haircuts.
Yep.
All right, so now we have like a more populated looking waitlist, and let's see. So now we're expecting the customer to be updated with a served at date as well. And just to confirm that this is the case, let's see. Over here in our our served list of customers, why don't I actually just console log customers here so that we can kind of like peer into what the shape of their objects looks like. So right now it's an array of 4, and served at is null for all of them. So we can go like serve Kurt, and then Trevor, and then Scott. And now our array got updated 3 times, and in the last state, now each of these served folks have a served at date. So we can use that to sort them super explicitly about we want this to represent like the order in which they've been served. So down here, We're currently just filtering out the people who are waiting, and then reversing that array. So we're not really saying like sort by served at date.
Hmm.
Um, Ken, have you ever written array sort functions?
Um, Not in this like particular.
Do you
Um,
want to? Cool.
sure.
So array sort is just like filter and map. It's like a chainable method that you can call on arrays, and um, it will return a sorted array. So that allows it to like be chainable. Like we can stick it in the middle of this thing. First, like filter will return a filtered array, sort will return a sorted
Hmm.
array, and then finally we map over that sorted and filtered array. But the important thing to know about sort is that it also mutates that underlying array. Similar to, remember we were talking about this last time with the reverse function, how like when you call reverse on an array, it'll actually like change, it'll return an array, but it'll also change that underlying array order, which causes problems when you're using it in this kind of setting. However, filter, it returns a filtered array, but it doesn't have an effect on the underlying, like the source array. So what that means is that we can call filter first, get a new array, and then safely sort that array without worrying about affecting the original source array.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, this sort method, it takes as its only argument, it takes a function. This is like a comparison function. Basically, you want to return true or false depending on, or sorry, not return true or false. What you want to return is uh, um, like I guess you could also return true or false, but you want to return a negative value if you want the current item in the list to be sorted like behind the other value that you're comparing, and a positive value if you want it to be sorted ahead of the other value that you're comparing. Or you can return 0 to have the order not change. The signature of this function is typically written like this: like you have an A and a B, the two things that you're comparing, and yeah. So what you'll write in there, and because we're using these JavaScript dates, let's take a look in the console actually. I'm gonna just copy, if I could, copy that date, and we'll just say like, see what happens when we subtract one date from another. Doesn't work. Okay, cool. But if you want to like peep the stream, I'll show you what I'm thinking in the console here.
Yep.
So yeah, like the first idea that came to mind is like, let's subtract one date from the other, and that will give us, like, if they're the same value, then that'll give us a 0. If one value is bigger or smaller than the other, it'll give us either a negative value or a positive value. So that would be really handy.
Hmm.
But right now, like the way that these dates are rendered, they're just strings, and you can't subtract strings from strings. Actually, I wonder if you can subtract like 1 minus 2. Yeah, so you can you can subtract strings that are numbers, but that's a different conversation. That's kind of fucked. These date strings you cannot subtract as is. However, you could say, like, what if we cast them as a date? Say that date, and then get time. Get time returns a date object as milliseconds, and that is
Mm.
something that we can subtract. So we could say something like, if we take this line up here, and we just wrap both of these in new date get time and new date get time. That gives us a negative value. This is something that we can work with.
Damn.
But just digging into this a little bit more, like right now we're calling get time on this automatically. And what's actually happening in the scene behind the scenes in JavaScript to allow us to do something like this, like a string of 1 minus a string of 2, is that whenever you use math operators in JavaScript, it attempts to cast the values that are being operated on as numbers. And the way it does that is you can call this number constructor in JavaScript. And if you pass in a string that's a number, it'll give you that string as like a proper JavaScript number. If you pass in something that's not a number, it'll give you NaN, or not a number. And so that's essentially what's happening here. Is you can think of this one, like string 1 minus string 2, as if this is happening. Both strings are being casted as a number using this number constructor, and then we get our value. And then similarly, if we try to do the same thing using this, number with a date string passed in is not a number. And when you try to subtract NaN from NaN, surprise, you get NaN. Cool. So how does that relate to this line, you might be wondering? Right now, like get time is a way for us to specifically say like we want the milliseconds. But I guess one question that comes to mind is like what happens when we cast a date object as a number, and the behavior in JavaScript is essentially the same as calling get time on that date. So knowing that, do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So like because we know that, it means that we can actually omit this get time part
Function
from each of these, because if we know that JavaScript will try to cast the values involved in a math operation as numbers, and we also know that when a date object is cast as a number, it turns into like its millisecond. What do you call it? Its millisecond version of itself, I guess. Then yeah, we can safely subtract 2 dates like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So knowing that, do you want to take a stab at writing this sort function?
Sure. Okay. So I'm just scrolling up to. Is it in the other file that you wrote the new key value? Yeah. Served at new date.
Oh, we're gonna do this down at. I have like a sort function down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Cool. So.
So in this case, A and B are both customers. This is like the way that the sort function works is it steps through like 2 array elements at a time. We're saying like compare the first array element with the second, And then the next iteration is compare the second with the third, and then the fourth with the fifth, and so on until our whole array is sorted. So you can think of this A and this B as customer objects themselves.
Okay. So would you be calling number on A and B themselves?
Well, we want to compare the A, like A dot served at with B dot served at. And right
Okay.
now, those are just these date strings. So, um, what we'll essentially want to do is like take this approach, like turn those date strings into date objects, and then subtract one from the other, and then return uh, the result of that subtraction.
Okay. Um, and you're saying you do call serve that on A and B, like A dot serve
Yep,
at
exactly. That'll work.
minus.
I hope we're not severing anybody.
Um,
Yeah.
Sorry, the dogs
Oh
are
yeah.
going crazy.
No worries. Yeah. So we're gonna want to return this. So we have a couple options there. I guess like one would be just to say return. That should do it. But as we discovered in like the messing around in the console earlier,
Mm-hmm.
when we try to subtract those two date strings from one another, we just get not a number. So as it's currently written, we're just going to get like NaN on every iteration. So
Yeah.
so
So you want to wrap that in number?
we're going to want to wrap it in date actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or turn them into
Still,
date objects by calling new date around each of them. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Cool.
and then whether that's positive or negative would give us who was served first.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? To be completely honest, the like I can't tell you right now whether we're going to whether these people are going to get whether this array is going to get sorted in the way that we expect it to. But a way that we can test this is just I'm gonna in the each list item I'm gonna render customers or customer dot served at, and maybe we can just like look at them in the list and um, see if they're in the correct order. So in here, I'm basically looking at the end, this like time string. So the first one's at 27, 50, 27. The next one's at 50, 29, and then the third one's at 50, 31. So what this tells me is that these are actually sorted in the opposite order. So to fix that, we just need to reverse this math operation. So rather than subtracting A from B, we want to subtract B from A.
That makes sense.
Yo, what's up, Pollux? Yeah, it was time to trim the hair. It's getting too hot out here. And and yeah, you can take a look at the wallpaper. Here you go. Boom. It's not all Cartoon Network characters. There's plenty of Cartoon Network characters in there, but yeah, this is just characters from all sources. Got Keanu Reeves in there, Yoshi, Skeletor, Peter Griffin, that guy from the butterfly meme. Um, but yeah, So like if I just replace this or move this b.served date on the other side of this subtraction operation and we hit save, you can see in the code the order gets flipped. So now the most recently served person, so the person served at 5031, gets rendered above 5029 and so on.
I see. That makes sense.
Let me grab a link for you, Pollux. One sec. What's it called again? I think I saved this in my Google Drive, but it was a Reddit post. It was called.
I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick while you're
All
doing
right,
that.
man. Okay, can't find it in my Google Drive. Surely it's on my computer somewhere. Oh, it's called Meme Supreme. Okay, so check this out. This is first there was Meme Supreme, and it looked like this. Pretty cool, right? And then the same artist kept working on it, I guess, and released Meme Supreme 2. As you can see, it got significantly expanded. So right now we're only actually seeing like this middle cutout part. Meme Supreme Reddit. I'm just gonna send you the Reddit post. Yeah, this is the subreddit that I'm a part of called Wimel Builder. It's a really cool subreddit for lots of like kind of like Where's Waldo type of thing. Let's see. Meme Supreme 2. I made a Supreme meme. You know what we can do? We can look. I can't. Oh, here we go. Sick pups. Whoa. Yeah, this guy does a lot of really cool art. Is there any way to follow this person? Nice, I can. Alright, I'm gonna find you this thing. I like this too. Damn. Here we go. There you go. Link in chat for you, Pollux. I'm going to check out this guy's stuff more after the stream. But for now, we know that our customers are getting sorted properly. So I'm going to remove, like I'm not going to render the served at, or maybe it would be. Do you think it would be like a nice thing to have in the UI, or would it just be extra clutter? Like we can render the date nicely so that it actually like makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think?
I don't know if it would be necessary for on their end, but it's totally up to you.
Let's just see what this looks like. To locale or to time string. How does that look? No. What about this?
Yeah, I think that it would be a lot smoother.
Something like that. Now if I hit serve on Cameron, yeah, Cameron served at this time.
It's also like hard to decide when it has no style.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever we do right here, this is like super ugly. Like I think we could fit this in. Like we could present the time I think that's really the only relevant part is like just the time that they were served.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think that's
All right.
nice.
Um, so we got that. Now, one thing oh, here, well, one thing while we're at it. Once again, because we have like this curly brace style function, and it's just got one line in it that's returning the result of this date subtraction. I think you know
Yeah,
what I'm gonna say, but
I know what you're
yeah,
doing.
we can just remove the curly braces, save a couple lines, and now this sort function looks pretty expressive. We're saying like take the A and the B sample, subtract B from A, and that kind of describes our sort operation pretty well. Now, the other thing I noticed is that we're still filtering on this waiting boolean. So on the app, um, I'm back in the API, and when we serve a customer, we update their this like waiting status to false, and then we also set served at. We change served at from null to the current date.
Hmm.
And what I'm thinking is that we can probably afford to just remove this and determine their waiting status on based on whether or not they have a served at value. If like served at is null, it means they're waiting. Kind of logic, you know.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm just gonna make that change here. I can also go into the database, and I'm just gonna scrap the waiting column, and then back here in the React app,
Instead of doing if they're no longer waiting, do
yeah,
if they are if they have not been served at.
yeah, I think
Does
that's
that make
exactly
sense?
it. Yeah, do you want to take that one on? We're gonna have to edit the app in a few different places to make that happen. I think, but yeah,
Okay.
you got this. So yeah, in this case, so right here, the this filter statement that you just changed, right now it's saying
Hmm.
like we want to filter, we only want to allow customers in this served list where like bang customer served
Uh,
at. So what you can do to because we kind of inverted it before. We had like a waiting boolean. It's true if they're waiting, but
hmm.
now we have that logic kind of reversed where yeah, you can just remove that exclamation mark and it'll work just fine.
Oh yeah, sorry, because this is for the
Yeah,
served.
yeah.
Sorry.
But then for the waiting customers,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to change that too. Yo, what's up, pancakes? How you doing, man? Did I read on Twitter that you got? Uh, I don't want to. I don't want to report false information or anything, but somebody tried to scam you or something. Shit's very whack. If it's true. Damn. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'll have to ask about it at some point.
Sorry, did you say that we would have to change it in the waiting section
Yeah.
as
So
well?
right now we have this like waiting customers variable. So if you
Hmm.
check out where that waiting customers variable is declared, um, yeah, we're using this. We're saying like waiting customers is equal to customers dot filter, and then we're doing a similar filter function where we're switching it on customer waiting.
Yeah. And then would this need to be the Boolean
Yep,
now?
you got it. So
Boolean,
so
but
yeah, that I think it's called a negation operator or something like that. But um, I just call it bang, like
bang.
yeah, bang served customer serve or bang served at. Essentially, just says like this expresses a state where customer.served at is falsy, and falsy
Mm-hmm.
can mean it's like it's literally false, or it's null, or it's undefined, or it's the number 0 is also considered falsy. An empty string is considered falsy. Like there's lots of ways that this condition could trip. Um, but yeah, this for our purposes, this definitely does the right thing. Well, let's see actually if it does. So our served list is still correct. I'm going to add myself back to the list. And there I am. Nice. Okay. Well, we just like added a new um, feature in having this like specific serve and ordering the list of served customers by their serve date. And I think that like adding it to the UI, I think is ultimately a good call. Like we can keep it really subtle in the eventual design that we come up with, um, but I think it might be useful information for the barbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So why don't we make a commit here, and then the next thing we'll do is remove customers from the list.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Do you want to make the commit? I'm gonna go refill my water bottle.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Cool. We're all committed and ready to go.
All good.
Cool. Well, let's see. We're gonna want
On our,
what you say.
what's up next on our
So
list?
let's wire up that remove button. So like if I think it's basically like we don't want to automatically remove people if they've missed their time or something like that. I think we want to and in speaking with Andrew, like he wants to have control over that on their end. Like if they if they've I guess like when um yeah, I guess this is maybe getting at something different where yeah, like he
You
might
talking about like coding something into the actual Twilio message that allows them to remove it?
no, I think so like when they say like okay, Trevor's up, you know, then if Trevor no shows, like the barber will just pick the next person in line or something like that, right? So that's kind of describes a different scenario. Let's see. I'm going to add a few more people to the list so that we can work with them. but yeah, like I think that we probably want the ability to just remove somebody without serving them. Like for example, I don't know exactly what that might entail, but I suppose did we talk about get like allowing the customer themselves to remove themselves from the list as well?
I think we discussed it like maybe in the second call with Andrew, but I don't know if we discussed it in terms of like the
Yeah.
technical undergoings.
Well, let's implement this remove button for now. Um, yeah, and now that I'm thinking about this, I'm wondering if this is even like a feature that we need to build. Like, do the barbers need to be able to remove people from the list? Maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
Because there's not like really any communication between the customer and the barber. Like it's all going through the app.
Yeah.
So there's no way for them to be like, sorry, I can't make it.
Yeah. Okay. What
So
about like an example of like when if they see uh, like a duplicate, like for example, if Devin just signed up and then like we'll say like Devin uh, requesting uh, you know, somebody makes a mistake and they're like, oh, actually, like I wanted to request a specific barber or something like that. Like they have the ability to do this kind of thing. Where in this case, like if I see the same person twice, like maybe as a barber, I might be like, oh, like I'll just remove the erroneous one.
mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah, I can see
let's
that.
hook this up and if it ultimately if it's not something that we want to include in the API after or in the UI after all, then so be it.
Mhm.
But I think it's good to have this option. Like kind of like completes the circle of like create, update, and destroy.
Yeah, for sure.
So first thing we're gonna want to do, I think, like yeah, we'll probably want to do two things. We want to set up. Well, we want the button itself to send an event, like a socket. It'll emit an event using socket.emit, and
Mhm.
it can follow a similar signature to the serve one, where we emit an event with a unique name, and then pass along the customer ID that we want to remove, and then we can swap over to the API and implement that event handler. What do you think?
Yeah, that
Okay,
sounds good.
cool. You want to set up that first part, and then we can swap over.
Sure. So I wouldn't call it serve. We would call it like
Yep.
remove, delete. Um, Still use the customer
Yeah.
ID.
Cool. And then let's. What are you gonna say? Oh, I think I just heard my own feedback. Okay, let's swap over to the API then and set up a handler for this remove event. So it'll like we'll define it basically on the same level as we have this like socket.on serve handler. So really like what you could do is down there after io.connection or is it io on connection? Yeah.
Yep.
So then we get the socket instance and we set up like socket.on serve. So yeah, like at that same level you can do a socket on remove. And this will be a function that takes one argument data, and then we'll do something with it.
do something with
Okay.
it.
How about this? Well, I guess like in the serve function, we are grabbing the customer from the database, sending them a message, and then updating that customer's row in the database, and then sending an updated list of customers back to all of the listening clients. In this case, all we really need to do is remove the customer from the database, get the updated list of customers, and send them back to the listening clients.
Okay.
So to do that, since we're using this connects, well, I guess we can do the first part or the second part first, if that makes sense. Like we already know how to get the list of customers and send them back to the clients, right? That would be like this part at the bottom. So we can just you can basically copy and paste that into the bottom of the remove handler. And await. I don't know if you see the red underlines, but await is red underlined. If you mouse over it, you'll be able to see the.
Yeah, it's because we didn't put the async,
Yep.
and we do want that.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay, now above this, we're gonna want to using this like DB function. We want to call the we want to delete the row from the database, and the way that looks using connects is we'll say like await DB customers, so target the table customers, and then specify the condition that we want to like match for the deleted rows. So we'll say where ID is equal to the data ID value that we passed to the event, and then we just say del. Or we can spell out delete, I guess, as well, but del. And that should do the trick. Let's go back to the code or to the development server and test it out. So what happens when you click remove on somebody?
Gone.
No way.
Yeah.
Nice. And when we refresh, still gone. Nice. Oh wait. Oh nice. If I remove Devin, done. Dude, this is awesome.
See ya.
Deal.
Nice to know.
Great. Well, that does it for remove. Why don't you write a commit saying...
Honestly, another good reason to have this remove option is because if there is a phone number to text listed on the window of a barbershop on Hastings Street, maybe someone texts that doesn't actually want a haircut.
Oh yeah, true. Just like
Maybe
spam.
maybe it's just straight up spam.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I hope that it doesn't like that the number doesn't get scraped by robots and like it gets like 100 texts a minute type of thing. I don't think that's a possibility.
I don't think we'd have to worry about that, but just it is just nice for them to have the option if like
some
butthead
moderation.
gets signed up for a haircut
Yeah.
and you're just like, see ya.
Yeah, somebody texts, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Or that guy. What's the local that's banned from the shop now?
Oh,
I think there's
man.
a few.
There's a few people, yeah. But yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it gives them some like moderation ability.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good. Yeah, let's write a commit, and then the next thing that we'll do, and this will be the last thing that we do for today's stream, guys. But it gets us pretty close to the finish line, honestly. Yeah, the last thing that we'll do is creating like a switch, like an on-off switch to accept or like not accept new customers on the wait list.
Jesus Christ. There's like a delay on my typing.
Oh yeah. That's trippy.
Cool.
All right. So, yeah, a freaking switch, eh? Let's see. So I guess first thing that we can do is just create that switch input. It doesn't have to be beautiful. I'm gonna do something like right above our next customer button. Why don't we just? I mean, it can just be like a checkbox or a radio button. I'm gonna look up MDN radio group. Let's see what that looks like. I think that's probably what we want. Like have like a radio input that's like two options on and off kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Scott says, "Bing that." I should Bing that. Let me just look. MDN input switch. What's a good? I guess the other option would just be a checkbox, like a checkbox that's checked if the service is running. Yeah, I think I like that idea better rather than having like an on button and an off button. Fuck that.
Yeah, and then we can just style it to
So
be more into.
yeah. Do you want to do the checkbox label combo?
Sure. Oops. We want it at the top, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Just do the scaffolding first.
Yep.
My sheet.
Oh, do you have a extension that allows you to autocomplete tag names?
I don't think it works for React, but I could be wrong.
Got you.
I know there's like a bunch that exist, but I don't have a ton of React specific extensions.
Mm-hmm.
Like my Emmet still doesn't work, so
gotcha.
I should set up some stuff. Go for what should our two like selections be?
Let's just make one that's like I don't know.
Accept customers.
Yeah, exactly. And
customers.
And that way the input can just be like a check, and that's it.
Is it type still in JSX?
Yeah, exactly. Nice, yo.
Do you use the type in HTML4, or do we have to give it a name?
You have to give it an ID for the for
ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. You got it. Cool. Now I'm just gonna remove these ones. Now our checkbox. Let's check it out. It works, and it works when you click on the label too. That's pretty sweet. Nice. This I tell you, man, this UI is so well designed.
Yeah, it's something that I'm really proud of.
Man, I'm going to apply to art school with this. It's beautiful. Cool. So I guess just a couple notes on this, like while we're looking at it. For this like, because we're using an input and it doesn't like, we're not passing it any children, and it doesn't take any children. We can just have it be self-closing like this. And
Perfect.
Then the other thing, like having the label and input relationship look this way, totally works. But there's also like a shorthand or like a shortcut, or maybe we'll just call it an alternate method of attaching labels to inputs, which is just removing the ID and the for, and you just
Hmm.
wrap the label, or wrap the input in the
Yeah.
label, and then this will just work. Um, yeah, and if it's cool with you, I'm gonna throw the checkbox on the left side of the input.
Cool.
So now we have our checkbox and it's all working and everything. But now we need to actually tie it to some real state in the database. Um, so to do that, what I'll do is I'm gonna pop over to my database manager. Daniel says it's very minimalist. I like it. I agree,
Hmm.
man. I agree.
You
All right, so let's see. What should we call this table? I don't. It feels weird storing this value in a database, but um, it's all right. We'll I think it'll work. Um, maybe what we can call this table is like settings, and then the columns that we give it are gonna be like um, why don't we give it like I guess it should have an ID. Doesn't really need an ID. Mm, I was just thinking like having a key and a value property, you know. Um, yeah, why don't we do that? We'll give it a key, which is I'm gonna borrow character varying.
It's so weird because I have your audio coming through Twitch, and then I'm watching you or sorry, through Skype, and then I'm
Mhm.
watching you through Twitch. So it's like I get an audio preview of what's about to happen.
Yeah, it's a bit of a delay. And we're gonna make this the primary key, which allows like the table to be indexed better, but it doesn't really matter since we're only gonna have one. I guess I don't. I wonder if I can not have a primary key. I can definitely not have a primary key. Let's just do this. Key, value, and I suppose this can just be a boolean, like whether we're on or not. Yeah, it feels dirty having this setting exists as a row in the database, but
Is it needed?
what do you mean?
Like, does it need to be in the database at all?
I guess the question is like the reason I want to put it in the database is because the API needs to know about this. Like when we accept or when we receive an SMS, we need to check to see if we're accepting customers, and then if
True.
we are, then we do our regular thing, and if we're not, then we have to do something different.
Hmm.
So that's the reason why. Like right now, we're using the database as a store for our for this kind of thing.
Hmm.
Let's just try doing this. Key value, and we'll save these changes. And I'm going to add a new key in here called accept, I guess. Accept, and the value will be. We'll start it at false. Okay, so now we have a setting set up in our database. It's a really simple table with a key column and a value column. So now in our let's see what we can do is first set up our accepting customers checkbox to represent the value that is currently set in the database. So to do that, we're going to need to change change something. So right now, we have this line up here. Do you see where I'm highlighting, Ken?
Yep.
So we have our socket. We're in our React app. We're listening for data events from our API, and then the data that we get that we send back to the clients from the API currently just includes this customer's state. But we can use this data event to also send back information about that, like accepting on or off type of thing. So here's an idea. I want to know what you think about it. Like, rather than right now, we're just like we get the data back from the API and we grab the customer's property from that and set it as this internal customer state. And maybe what we can do instead is have like a more general state. So it would look something like this, like set state to data, and this would contain like an is accepting boolean and also a customer's array. And so it'll mean that we have to change the way that we access our customers' data a little bit. So yeah, what do you think? Does that make sense?
So we're using like an object as the parameter instead of
Exactly.
like a set data point.
Yeah, exactly. So let's. I'm gonna. If you're cool with that, I'm gonna try to make that adjustment just with what we currently have before we add the accepting state to the mix.
Yep. Just do a little refactor.
Yes, sir. Exactly. So
take it away.
Cool. So I'm just gonna remove that customer prop. We're gonna change set customers to set state, and we're gonna change this customer's state value to state. And then, like you said, our default state is going to be an empty object. And now we have this undefined customers value everywhere. So we can fix that by just calling data.customers and passing data.customer, or not data, what am I saying? State.customers, and same thing here. And then finally, I think the last place is this red underline down at the bottom where we're rendering our served list. We can say state.customers, and that should work for now. Let's see if anything breaks. So we got an error saying cannot read property filter of undefined, and it's saying in here. It's failing on this line, state.customers.filter. It's saying it can't read this property filter of undefined, meaning that at some point this customer's property is undefined, which is true if you look at the default value of state. The customer's property is indeed not defined. So I mean, like we can do this. We can address this a number of ways. We can say like customers set like some default value for customers, or we could also change the logic in here, saying like, okay, if like state customers exists, then we filter them. Otherwise, return an empty array. Something like that. And maybe that might be like a good way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I like that.
Cool. And then we just got another error, similar error, I think. And it's gonna have a problem with what we're doing down here as well, reaching into state.customers and doing all this stuff. Except this time, we can do something similar. Like we can say, state.customers. Then we render this list of customers. Or we can return an empty array, just like we did above, and that should work. But there's other options too. Because we're just we're within the render statement. Another way to express this is just rendering null, like render nothing if we have no customers, and that still works. And then, or you could also render like undefined, and that works. But if I'm looking at this, and I know that there's like a certain app state that we might encounter where customers is undefined, like the initial load, customers is undefined. We can get away with rendering undefined, like returning undefined in our render statement to effectively say like render nothing. So knowing that, we could also express this condition like this, like state.customers and then do the operation. And what this does is if the value of this first predicate, this like condition, is truthy, so it's like, it's not falsy, it's not null, it's not undefined, it's not an empty string or the number 0, then go on and render the second part of this statement. But if it's falsy, then just return that value right away. So that in that case, like we're that initial render case, it encounters undefined here, and it just renders undefined. But if it is defined, then we get our filtered, sorted, mapped customers. And if I refresh the page, we can see that does indeed work. So that's one way to do it. And then this is I don't want to spend too much time going over like the million ways to express this, but one other way, and this is kind of like a relatively new feature in JavaScript. And if Pancakes is still in the chat, I know he's a big fan of this syntax, but it's called optional chaining. I can write this. Wait, is it that? No, it's. I think I want to write like this. Yeah. Okay. So, you can append a question mark to one of the keys in your object to say essentially the same as that and statement does. If state.customers exists, then do the rest of this stuff. And if it doesn't exist, then just render its falsy state, in this case, undefined. And Kurt is in the chat correcting the order in which I applied that question mark. So this is the way. It's a pretty it's a really new syntactical change, but I think it's kind of nice. So yeah, that's another way to do this. And then one last thing I'll mention is that maybe a way that we could get around all of this kind of like conditional checking stuff is to implement some kind of like loading state. So when we first mount the component, loading would be set to true, and then after we get back data from the API, then we set loading to false. So then we have like two very distinct states. One where we know we don't have data, and one where we absolutely know that we have data. So that might be another thing that we can do. And I'm just gonna. We don't need to spend too much more time on this here, but I'm gonna write a to-do here that says like implement independent loading state, because I think that can be pretty nice. Like having like a distinct state that tells you that data is loading for the user. Like it's going to be pretty quick anyway, but especially when we're polishing the design, probably next episode, then that's something we'll want to consider.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
So, cool. One last thing. I know that I've been talking about last things, but I want to just know what other arguments are passed to this, because we can make this like data event handler even more succinct if nothing is passed to it, which is the case. So because this function signature has one argument, and then we pass that one argument to set state. This function is kind of redundant. We could replace this whole thing, hopefully, let's see if this works, but by just saying when the data event comes back, we want to run set state and pass whatever arguments normally would get passed to this event handler to set state. So let's see. Is calling IO every time this renders a concern? You can get rid of that by either a lazy state initializer or using a use lazy ref hook. Yeah, that's an interesting point there, Jazzface. I guess the point of this is Jazzface is referring to us calling IO every time the component renders, which as far as I can tell, maybe you're right. Maybe that is what's happening. I assumed that what this means is that this is just the default value that that my ref gets. It's not going to get called every time the component renders, and it'll only get called the first time. And then if I want to update that ref in the future, I can assign a new value to socket, or I can say like reach into the ref and assign a new value to its current property. But as far as I can tell, we're only making that initial connection once. You say it is the default value, but IO will always get called, so it'll always run whenever that code runs. Yeah, but I guess the point is that it'll only get called on the initial load of the page, which is what we want. Like we want to establish a connection to our WebSocket server, and then await a data event, and then from that point on, the page is just communicating with our WebSocket server using socket events. At least that's been the experience so far. Yeah, sure. If you want to like send over a code sandbox with what you're talking about, we can definitely check it out. Okay, so now we have our state migrated from like a customer's state to a more general kind of state object, and that will now allow us to, in the app, send information about the accepted or accepting customer's state as well. So yeah, we do this. We emit a data event every now and then, huh? How many times do we do it? 1, 2, 3. Just 3 times? Cool. All right. Why don't I'm gonna do the first. I'm gonna like mock up the first version of this, and then we're gonna have to do it 3 times. Maybe there'll be opportunity to like what's it called? Consolidate some of the code. But why don't I write this first one, Ken, and then you can do the other two? You down?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to watch. I just learned a ton on that render block that we were working on.
Cool, cool. So what I'll do is I just know like I know to some degree like um, what options are available to me using Connects, which is our database like our database layer for this app.
Mhm.
So what I'll do is say like our is accepting value will be equal to await db settings is the name of the table, and we want to find the row where key is equal to accept, and we just want to pluck. Well, I guess what we can do is just say first, and what that'll do is just give us the first. Normally, a query like this, targeting a table and then applying a where condition will give us an array of all the matches. So we know that there's only one, so we're just going to say give us the first, and I'm going to call this accept, just to match the key name. And then in our data emit, or when we emit this data event, we're going to continue sending back customers, but I'm also going to send back an is accepting property, which is equal to accept.value, which is the column where that Boolean is stored. So I can do something like that. And now let's see, back in our app, if we console log state, we have our is accepting set to false. So that's really good. This is going to be very useful, where we get to, keep track of that is accepting value. And actually, here's a thought. Currently, we send these data events with the, in response to changing some customer state. But really, like we don't need to, like in these particular interactions, the is accepting value wouldn't have changed. Only the customers have changed in all of these examples. So we don't actually need to continue updating the client with that current accepting state, except for that first, like that initial dump of data. In all of the other cases, like what we'd actually want to do is, considering that back in our React app, every time we get a data event, we just set it as this state, and this works great for that first event because we get is accepting and customers. But in all the subsequent events, we're only going to be getting customers, or maybe in the case of the when we flick the switch, we're only going to get back the new is accepting value. So I'm going to rewrite the way that we handle that again. Put it back to this set state data. Oops, right? But I essentially want to say, like, I want data to just be able to override the values that it contains and leave the other values that are already set in state intact. So, like, if we have customers and an is accepting Boolean, and we get a new data event with only a customer's key, then I want to only update the customer's key in our local state and leave is accepting, don't touch it. And the way that we can express that in here is by using the like a function callback as our argument to set state. And the way this works is you can access the previous state value and return what the new state looks like. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll spread the previous state into the new state object, and also spread the incoming data. And this will effectively have the effect that we're going after here. All of the existing state values will get added to the array first, or added to the object first, and then all of the incoming updated values will get tacked on to the end. And if any of the keys present in this data are also present in previous state, the ones that are listed or that are spread in after will take precedence. So it allows us to override previous state with the new data. So yeah, that should do it for like keeping our state in sync. And we can see if we continue. Let's test to make sure this works. If we console log state and we have our customers and our is accepting false. If I choose to serve Devin requesting Andrew, ooh, bummer. Our is accepting actually did get removed. So this tells me that something is wrong in this approach. It all looks okay. I wonder if I just need to refresh. Let's see. So now once again, customers and is accepting, and if we serve a customer, there we go. Yeah, I did need to refresh. Got it. So yeah, now we have our updated customers, but the is accepting Boolean stays in place. I'm just going to check out this code sandbox written by Jazzface, illustrating this point that he was making earlier. Let's take a look. Okay, so, ooh, interesting. Yeah, so it does appear like the default value of useRef does get called every render. Who knew? So you mentioned about use lazy ref, huh? I'm gonna take a look at that. See what that's all about. So does this mean, does this imply that the expensive computation part of use lazy ref only gets run one time? Got it. All right. What I wonder is if I really like using this package called React Use. It's a package that's just full of good utility refs, or utility hooks. I mean, yeah, this one is not here. Cool. Yeah, post a link in chat there, Jazzface. All right. So we'll just keep pressing forward though in the meantime, and we want to set up this accepting customers checkbox to just straight up reflect the state of this is accepting variable. So currently it's what would be called an uncontrolled input, and we want to change it to a controlled input. So an uncontrolled input has no value prop or on change prop. It just uses the like native HTML form behavior to change its state. So yeah, we're going to want to change this to a controlled input where the value is set to the is accepting boolean, and then our on change handler for the checkbox will communicate with our API to say like set the new value in the database, and then it waits for and then the database sets the value, and it will eventually send a data event back to our client with the updated is accepting property, and then everything should just continue to work. So yeah, that's the plan.
Sounds lovely.
You want to take it?
Yeah, probably need some guidance along the way. Are you talking about just like throwing, oops, none of that nonsense, and then throwing like the is accepting
Yeah, exactly.
right here?
So it'd be state dot is accepting in this case.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yep. And then you're going to want to create an on change handler for the input. And so so this on change handler, it takes an event as an argument. So you can just say like and the new state of the checkbox, a true or false, can be accessed at event.target.checked. In our case, it would be e.target.checked.
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, e.target.checked contains a boolean of like the new checked value. So what we're going to need to do is send that to our API in the form of a socket event, and we can use the same kind of logic as in our serve and remove buttons, where we're just saying like socket.emit with an event name, and then we pass some value to it.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so like we're going to want to, whenever this input changes, we're going to want to emit an event using socket.emit, and we can call that event something that makes sense, like accept, and then pass that new updated checked value in the form of like the second argument, the data argument.
Okay.
So yeah. And you got like we're gonna want to continue doing it inside of on change. Yeah. So
Oh.
no, it's all good. So right now we get an event, and we're this function that you've written here just returns a boolean. But what we want to do is actually like send that boolean to our API using socket.emit.
Okay. So, correct me if I'm like, would we run an arrow function socket.emit, and then this would go inside of that, that would be called within that function.
I think what we do is just say like, you could take this. I would like copy this to my clipboard and just go like socket dot emit. Yeah, and then
Okay.
like that's what you would essentially. This is the value that you want to emit back to the API.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll call it.
We can just call it accept, I think. Hey, thanks, Jazzface. I'm gonna take a look at that more deeply after we're finished adding this feature. Yeah, and then so the second argument that we pass to emit is going to be an object, and I guess what we could do is just to match the naming in the API or in the database. Maybe we call it like a value. Value is equal to that boolean. Yeah, except we don't need to refer to it as an arrow function anymore. We can just, because we already have e exactly, we just do that and hit save. Cool. So now whenever this input changes, it sends a event out to our API called accept with the value, with like the new checked value. And if we go into our app and we refresh the page and test this, that's interesting. It actually so it's not behaving like a controlled input, and I think I know why actually. So this is maybe it'll seem obvious now, but we were using this like we're reaching in and getting the checked property from the event target, but we're sending the boolean to a value prop. This one actually also needs to be checked because it's a checkbox. So now, now when we refresh the page, let's see what happens. Okay, so the first thing I notice is that there's this big React warning that says a component is changing an uncontrolled input of type checkbox to be controlled. Input elements should not switch from uncontrolled to controlled or vice versa. And the problem that we're running into here is similar to the customers issue that we had before, where at the beginning of this, when this component is first mounted, is accepting is undefined. And because we pass undefined to this checked property, React considers that to be an uncontrolled input. You're not passing any value to the checked prop. Okay. So to get around that, an easy way to get around that would just be to cast this value as a boolean. So if it's undefined, it'll be false. If it's true, it'll be true. Yeah, this is like maybe one way to get around it. You know, in addition, we might want to disable this if we don't have any data. But really, like what this has got me thinking is that maybe a distinct loading state is becoming more and more necessary in this case. Like we almost don't even want to render this until we know what the value is. It's not like, you know, if the thing hasn't been loaded yet, we don't want to render an unchecked checkbox. We just want to render nothing. And maybe that's probably the play for right now. We can just like wrap this whole label thing in a condition saying like only render. Oh wait, yeah, this is tricky. We want to only render the checkbox if type of state.isAccepting is not undefined. Or another way to write this would be like to say is accepting in state. I think that's another way to write that. Like, is there an is accepting key on state? Let's see if that works. All right. So that does it helps us avoid that big React warning, but I think that this to do at the top of the page is still very, very important, and that's something we'll tackle next time. Is just having a default, having a distinct loading state, and then we don't have then once we have a loading state, we don't have to have all these extra conditions around different pieces of our UI. But now we have our accepting customers checkbox, and checking it does nothing now because its checked value is set explicitly. It's only ever going to be state.isAccepting. And for us to change that, now we need to edit. Now we need to add this accept event handler in our API. So, so yeah, we can go back here. Are you in the API file?
Yep.
Cool. So, yeah, why don't you create another event handler? We'll say like socket on accept.
That would be.
And you can do it like right under remove, yeah. So the purpose of this function is going to take the new value, which will be either true or false, and then update that row in our settings table in the database, and then return the new value. Hey, Zbarth, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Yeah, you got it. You're on the right track. So you'd say in there we'd say settings. That's the name of the table.
Settings.
And we want to target the row where key is equal to accept. Similar to what we do down here, we say like DB settings where key is equal to accept.
We want the key to be
accept. And then you can chain on that the update method. And then you can just say update, and the first argument is the column name that you want to update, and the second argument is the new value.
Okay.
So the column is value, and then we'll pass in the what we sent as data. So I think we called it data is an object with a value key in it. So you could just pass that new Boolean as the second argument to value or to update.
Sorry, what are we passing to it?
So yeah, we want to pass like in here data dot value.
Data dot.
Yeah. Cool. So that will update our row in the database. Oh, one sec. Getting calls out here.
Popular.
Okay, so yeah, this should do the trick. It should update the row in the database. That's all cool. And we can expand on this a little bit more too, where like it'll update the row, um, but by default, this update promise resolves to just the number of rows that were affected. But what we really want to do is like get the new value from the updated row. So we'll tack on this returning method, which I'm just saying. Oh, actually, you know what? I can even say like I only want to um, I want to return an array of um, array of the updated rows and get the value column for each of those updated rows. So then we could say something like, in this case, updated at index 0 dot value is equal to the new value. And so this is useful for us to then broadcast that back to the client. So yeah, and to do that, you can use the same like io.emit data event. You want to do that?
No, you take this one.
Okay.
I'm wrapping my head.
Okay, cool. So
this new fun stuff.
So yeah, I'm just going to copy and paste the data emitter from the previous event, like remove event handler that we made. And in here, I'm just going to return is accepting to this value.
Updated.
Yeah. And that should do the trick. Let's test it out. If I go and click accepting customers, nothing happens. Cool. Let's see if that changes the value here. So that's interesting. It did change the value in my database. So why didn't we get the new value back? And I think it might have something to do with the way that I'm accessing this value here. So I'm just going to console log updated and see what I can learn from looking at the console. So now when I hit accepting customers, oh, that's cool. So because I listed just one property here, it's given this the return value is an array of just that property. That's pretty useful. So that means that I can omit this dot value prop and just send back updated at index 0. Or if I want to be really fancy with it, I can destructure the first array element, call this is accepting rather, and then use that nice like implicit object notation to pass that as the is accepting property on the payload for my data event. So let's see, we'll restart the server, and now when I hit, let's see, this is intense. Okay, so now when I toggle this, it does represent the accurate state. And if I check my database again, accept is set to false, and when I click this and it checks, accept is set back to true again. So this is really useful because, as we know, this is going to be something that's running on multiple devices, and we want to make sure that those devices stay in sync. And so keeping this value in a database and managing it using WebSockets means that when one device turns accepting off, all of the devices respond. That is really, really cool.
It gives Deco all the power.
Yeah, pretty much. It really gives all the barbers the power to like stop accepting. But it enables that state to be synchronized. Like it
Mhm.
makes sure that everybody stays in sync at all times. Um, and that's
Now I understand why we were setting it in the tip.
yeah, yeah, pretty dope. Um, but yeah, then I guess next steps would be actually like factoring this is accepting state into um, like into some of the things that we do. I guess it's mainly just this SMS handler. So this will be the last thing that we do today, and I don't mind doing it if you wanna if you're cool with that or if
Yeah, you can finish it us off because I'm learning a lot just by
okay.
helping you do it and explain it.
So what I'm gonna do is actually just I'm gonna copy this call that we make after a customer after a client connects. We get the customer list, we get the current state of our accept setting, and then we send that as like that initial state back to the customer. So I'm going to take this call to our DB where we get that accept setting and just put it right at the top of where are we? So remember we set up that SMS route that allows us to handle incoming SMS messages. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm gonna first put this like I'm gonna find whenever we get an SMS, I'm gonna first check to see what the state of our accept setting is, and then what I can do is just say like if accept value is false, then we want to like stop or like don't add to waitlist, and maybe we send a text back to them saying like we've stopped accepting reservations for today. Send
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
SMS back. Okay, so knowing that, um, I just noticed that we have this Twilio messaging response little instance down here. Because we're going to want to send an SMS back, I can move this back to the top of the function. We're always going to need this, regardless of the outcome. So I'm going to go down here and grab this twiml.message function. I guess that's really all that we need, right? We just need to send them a message. Oh, and then of course, yeah, we need to call this like res.writehead and end with twiml to string. That's what Twilio expects to actually like um, I don't know, like send the message back to the person. So we can actually just leave these two lines at the end of the function, and then handle this in using like an if-else statement. So we can say like maybe we structure it this way. So like if we're accepting people, then do all this stuff that we were doing before. Else, we just want to set that message to something like we have stopped taking customers, or yeah, stopped accepting customers for today. Please come back tomorrow at. Please come back tomorrow. Open. We're open starting at I don't know 8 a.m. Pacific time. How's that?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. Yeah, all of these like text bits, they're gonna be we're gonna get the final copy from Deco ultimately, but the logic here is pretty simple. I think like we will first instantiate our messaging response, then check to see what the or we'll get the accept setting from the database, and then if that accept value is true, then we insert that customer into the database, check get like the estimated wait time, send the customer back a message, and then broadcast to all the clients the new customer list. Otherwise, we just set the messaging response message to something generic like this. And then finally, in either of the cases, we're going to write head 200 with this XML header, and then end the response with this twiml.toString. Again, this stuff is just coming from Twilio. This is what they expect us to do.
Mm.
So that should do the trick, I think. So we'll save that and test this out by turning accepting customers off. There we go. Okay. And Ken, do you want to try adding yourself to the list and see what happens?
Yep. Yeah, it worked.
Nice. Let's see. Ooh, beautiful. Awesome. Well, that kind of rounds out that feature. So today we got down skip, choose, and cutoff time, which are 3 big ones. And then we got some more work coming up, but I think this this feels close to complete,
Yeah, it's feeling good.
Dope.
But was there also, you just noticed how I just held my phone up to where you are on my computer and not
Yeah.
You catch that one?
Yeah. I always have a hard time lining it up, left is right and right is left sometimes. But yeah, it was a good try, man.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Next time.
make one last commit and then we will sign off?
Absolutely.
Dope. Yeah, we did it, man. We fucking did it. Beautiful. Awesome.
Lovely.
And for anybody in chat that wants to know, we're working on this whole project is it's a waitlist for our friend's barbershop. All the code is open source. I'm going to paste a link to our GitHub repo in the chat. If you want to see what we've done so far, or browse through the code and try to parse it yourself, it's a relatively simple app. It's just a couple files, but you can go and browse to your heart's content there. And yeah, I'm gonna look into the comment left by Jazzface there about a lazy ref, because that would we'd probably see some slight performance wins there. And but yeah, that's for another day. Yeah, that's it for us. Yeah, Pancakes, I would say it's open to PRs. Please submit away. Would be stoked to see what you have in mind. But in any case, thanks everybody so much for stopping by. What I'd like to do actually is just quickly check if any of the homies are streaming, and we'll raid them. Otherwise, we can leave it at this. Just browsing. Yeah, we're just gonna end it at this point, guys. Thanks a lot, Ken. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next time.
Peace.